You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Hey everybody, Happy New Year, all things 3D. It is January 8th, 2016, and Happy New Year. And
Hey, Happy New Year. Hey,
we're
look
gonna,
who we got today. Man, we're going to
yeah,
jump right into it because his battery's going to die on us.
yeah,
Bryan, all the way
Bryan,
from
Hi,
New York.
everybody.
Bryan Yee.
Man, did you have a snowstorm or something? Man, it's bright back there.
Is it bright back there? You know what? It's all the lights in this new system.
Oh,
So
what system are we talking
let
about?
me see if I can just turn it off really quickly. Where's the thing? It's not gonna do it. Oh, there we go. Maybe that helps. There we go. I took it down for a second. So basically, I just wanted to drop you guys a little line, and sorry to interrupt everything with my little announcement, but we've been working for the last month and a half with a company called Organic Motion, and they do markerless motion capture. They're industry leading in that arena, and I guess in September, I saw their TechCrunch. They had done a presentation, and they had this incredible system that leveraged their markerless motion capture technology to be able to, using, I guess we have about 24 cameras, which you can probably see around me here.
Oh
24
yeah.
cameras all around, and it will capture you in full 360. And so as opposed to being POV video, you now have the ability to walk around in the space. So it's very exciting. It's very cutting edge, and there are no amounts of people who are excited to come in here and see demos. And I invite any of you who are out there to contact us. The name of the studio is going to be 360 Minute Studios, and we're opening in New York, Miami, LA, and a variety of other places that I can't talk about yet. But this is the first one, and we're working in-house with Organic Motion right now as we're helping them to get their system ready to be a production ready system. So as you can see around me
Wow.
here, we have we have the system. I'm not going to be in the way here, but so this thing is not green screen. It's actually just a green mat that denotes what the volume is for the capture volume. But you would go inside and you hit a T pose, and then it would automatically recognize you. And see if I can give you a little close up of some of the cameras that we have here. We have about 24 of these all around right now.
So what cameras are those?
These are actually VGA, but we're upgrading them all to HD. And what happens is you take these 24 cameras, and they pretty much, using the tracking information, are able to create a full 360 kind of mesh. And so it's kind of unique in that it generates this full mesh for your body and so forth. And I have some videos that I'll forward to you guys later that you can check out. And it's very, very exciting. And we see it, if you want to think of it as a 3D green screen, if you will. So you pair this with, we're getting a bunch of Faro scanners in, hopefully in the next week, that will be for rent. You'll be able to rent 360 cameras, Faro scanners, a variety of other things. We're going to offer production services for people too. So if you're just a producer and you have an idea, you'll be able to come in, rent stuff. We have full, hourly rates for 3D artists and interactive stuff. If you want us to create custom applications for you and so forth. And we think it's going to be a real big winner. So very excited about this, and I just wanted to wait until we had everything together so that I could give you guys a quick preview.
Wow.
So we
Very,
officially
very,
got into this
very.
space on Monday, and we are just, pretty much excited, and I've been setting up all the furniture and everything in the studio the last couple of days over here, and IKEA is a real pain. But as you can see, we have everything going right now, so we're just like calibrating stuff, and there's some more of
Cool.
like you can see some of the
So,
other
Bryan,
work
real
areas.
quick, you said it
Mhm.
captures a 3D mesh. Is it a mesh or is it an
Yes.
amateur so that you saw an actual 3D mesh?
Oh, full mesh. Even the bottoms of your feet will be captured. It figures it out, basically, and it fills it in. And then using these cameras, it generates a texture map that then gets streamed over it. So what you get is pretty realistic looking, characters and
Is it for stills or is it for
Oh
motion?
no, it's full 3D video.
Yeah.
It is basically, when I went to college, and this is, I'm obviously dating myself, but some 20 years ago, my major was it was an independent concentration that was based on 3D interactive digital video being the future. And now here we are 20 years later, and I'm standing in
You picked the right
my
one.
studio. So basically, what that means is that you'll
They
be
said,
able to
"Oh,
come
he's
in here.
independent studies. He's just gonna be one of those duds." And then but you picked the one that's like happens to be the one now.
Yeah, I guess I got lucky on that one. But, so I've been really thinking about this for a long time. As you can tell, 20 years is a long time to wait for technology to actually come about, and now it is here. And we are due to our relationship, we are kind of in-house working with them to help create content and to showcase the technology. And that's
Brian,
something
can you
that.
go landscape? You're in
Sure.
portrait right now.
Oh, sorry. It's,
No worries. Yeah, no. Oh, there we go.
So yeah, you can
Oh,
see.
check it out.
Yeah, I had to turn off all the lights because it was too bright for you guys in here. But this is the system without
Very,
the
very
lights.
cool.
We're gonna
So
have
can you tell us anything about the software or anything, or is it all proprietary?
It's all proprietary,
Okay.
and a lot of their stuff is for life sciences oriented or military, and they've started to they started to pivot from being a markerless motion capture, like the leading markerless motion capture system, to leveraging that technology to be able to now take these cameras. They're actually a different system of cameras that will allow you to real-time texture and real-time capture the mesh. So it's extremely.
You look like
impressive.
you probably need a Neoti VR loop with all this quality stuff. I guess.
Yeah, I might. Well, interestingly enough, this company is also sister companies with Occipital. So when I came in here with my structure sensor, I felt right at home. So that's basically what I've been working on. I've been working on a couple other things outside of just the studio. I'm doing 2 music videos that should be releasing in the next month, and they're next generation music videos. I can't say much about them yet. We're a fairly large artist, but we're going to be producing a lot of content in here soon, and you guys are going to see if it's all going right and we have it set up. Maybe sometime I'll do the show entirely in 3D.
What? That's
Excellent.
awesome. So let me ask you one more question. Can you take a still from that video, and it's 360 VR or
Yes.
360? So or 3D, right? So you could take a still from that video capture, and you could 3D print that as a model, let's say.
Yes, I mean,
Wow.
right now it's not necessarily set up for that, but all of the information is there. So
Wow.
part of what I'm going to be doing is, working with the team here in order to figure out all the different ways that we can actually output. So one of the things that we're very excited about is that not only will this satisfy the Vive and the Rift users, but will also be able to be used for mobile because we're probably just going to render out POV video, and you'll get better stitching. I mean, there'll be no stitching. You'll get better quality everything with the correct IPDs for everybody, which is a big issue with stereo. And it's going to be I think it's going to be groundbreaking in the industry, and that's why we're here and why we invested a lot of money into this. It's not cheap. That's all I can say.
No, I can imagine. Well,
Can't wait to
cool
get
for
a
you.
demo on it.
All right, well, let's move on with the show. I've got an actual video that you might be interested in seeing, Brian. I found this the other night. This is a video from Sony, who took 24 of their, I don't remember how many of their cameras, but they took quite a few of their little Z5 cameras and put them in one of those standard panoramic, but this is a full 4K.
You got to change to your screen, Mike.
I'm sorry. Oh, thanks. Oops. Okay. You don't see my screen?
Yeah, no, now I do.
Okay.
What? Taking some runs, brah.
Now, what's cool is when you play this in an Android device with the Google Cardboard selection, and if you had one of their new Sony, exactly. But even with a Note 4, the Note 5 with its 2560 screen, it is superb. But you have to have a NeoDVR loop to really benefit from it with the all glass
Shameless
50
plug.
millimeter lenses. But I
Well,
mean,
you guys saw the Nikon that's coming out, right? In probably
I did.
August or so.
Yeah. Pretty exciting stuff coming
Yeah.
as far in the camera pipeline. Just when I was getting ready to get one of those Sony AR, whatever it is, S2s. That thing's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so the Google Cardboard with the snowboarding, now all you need is like to get a little piece of dry ice with a fan blowing over it while you're got your thing and
well, I sat in the refrigerator while I was doing it. No,
oh, there you go. But you got to have the fan so it feels like you're actually snowboarding.
Okay, well, let's get right into the first item.
Awesome.
Hey, you know what it was?
Thanks
It
again,
was
Bryan.
CES this week,
Oh, no
and
problem.
as you can see, I'm not in my CES mode at
I
Las
know.
Vegas.
Sorry you didn't make it, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you go with the cheapest flyers. Last year I took them, and it worked out great. This year, not so great.
Well, we've been getting gnarly storms, so you
Yes.
can't control the weather. But
El
Okay,
Nino.
one of the
But luckily,
things,
we have technology. We have the internet. We can follow CES right from home nowadays. They have
well, exactly, and one of the things that was a big hit was Mcor's color. I'm saying color, full color 3D printer. Chris and I, we've looked at it. We've talked about it. I saw it last year. This was their large unit that nobody could afford. But guess what? They created a desktop version, and literally, I guess it's a large desktop. But this is the new Mcor Arc E.
$6,000.
About 6,000. I think it's more. Is it $699 or is it $599?
I heard it was $6,000.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
So.
And it's a little different than the first printer. It doesn't print a ream of paper. It actually prints off of a roll of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I've got a little video here, so I'm going to go ahead and actually, I do not. It was built in. Here it is. So here's the actual Mcor. So you can actually get it with different paneling.
Yeah. Different skins. Yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. I still obviously think there's a lot of figuring out, and I've seen some of the parts. I haven't seen any parts that have come off this machine, obviously, because it's brand new. But the parts are pretty strong. They're strong as wood, but you get you are limited to that one material option. But the cost of prints is so much lower because paper is your consumable. And so I could see, a lot of schools. I think they're going to start going after more education, the education sector, with this particular printer. And the full color, kind of offers you some novelty. I could see if you were doing some FEA, the finite element analysis, that stuff like SolidWorks can render out kind of color shades, so you can see where things might fracture or heat stress might build up on complex geometries. If you wanted to visualize that in the real world in full color, the Mcor might be a good option for that.
Well, as you can see down at the bottom, what I think probably more of a benefit is, for instance,
Portraits.
Sculptures.
Yep.
Portraits, objects that don't require a lot of strength. I mean, that's the value that you offer, Chris. I don't think as far as creating color thermal analysis images, I mean, we can do that in VR right now, which I think we're moving in the direction. So you don't have to print anything,
right,
so that you can take a look at it. But I think for doing color characters, small architectural work, things like that, I've got a little demo later on that I'm going to be bringing up as one of my news items. But this was something that I was really looking into getting back when I started. But as you remember, it was prohibitive. I think it was like $50,000.
Yeah.
Point. Now, here's my big concern. Mcor is not a big 3D printer company. I mean, it's a novel idea, but when you shrink things down, it's still a mechanical process. There's a cutting process. It's basically an inkjet cutting out paper. What's the reliability factor? That's always going to be the question. And what kind of contract do you to keep this up and running? As Chris, you and I both agree on that, to be in this kind of business, you have to have reliable machines. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so that would be my big concern: is this thing going to be reliable?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a tenth of the price of a PolyJet, the color PolyJet machines, and hearing from colleagues that have these PolyJet machines, I haven't heard many good things about those full color PolyJets. So as far as reliability, and you have to use them all the time. I could see if you were going to open up a 3D portraiture studio and use kind of like the technology that Bryan, something similar to what Bryan's demoing, right? Or have one of these, then this printer would be perfect for 3D printing your, a model of your family, your dog, your pet, whatever. So I think that this will definitely fill that niche. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see kind of like the quality of these prints. I can't wait to get some in my hands.
Yep. Well, I think we have. I don't know where they're located. I think they're up in San Jose, but there's an office up there, if I remember correctly, and they probably will have one of these. So we'll find that address and phone number for those of you who are interested. But obviously, you can go to Mcor and find out for yourself. All right, Chris, on to your next item.
Awesome. So this was a cool one. This is not CES related, but it was so big for me. This was last week, I think, December 31st, right before the new year. And its 3D printed Wonder ceramics are flawless and super strong. This is a company actually out of California. And this is via Popular Mechanics article. And you can just go type in 3D printed ceramics over at Popular Mechanics and it should pop up for you. But there's this company, I'm trying to find it's 3D Ceram is one of the companies involved, but the actual resin producer is producing basically a stereolithography process, and you can watch the video here. It's a stereolithography, just a regular stereolithography resin that you can pop in and actually make ceramic parts from. So here they're showing a lattice structure.
Can you expand the video?
Yeah, if you see the video, which I encourage all those to go over to YouTube and check it out, or over to this Popular Mechanics article, and you can scroll down and find the video. Here they're showing heat dissipation of the lattice structure and a guy from the actual chemical company. And the chemical company is actually located in Malibu. I think it's HLF, if I remember correctly. And they're basically, it's a resin that works in stereolithography machines and can make ceramic parts directly from your SLA. So you can.
I don't know if you were planning to bring it up today. So is this a possibility for you now?
Well, they're showing the Form 2. Yeah, so my Form 2 was delivered on Wednesday, and I think some of the rest of the boxes are to show up today. So I'll be experimenting with that through the weekend.
So you'll have an update for us next Friday, I hope, huh?
Yeah. So I should have that up and running by next Friday for sure. And here's they're talking a little bit about the just the science behind the formulation. Basically, you take the ceramic out of your SLA printer and you pop it into an oven and to fully kind of bake it, kiln, fire it, just like you would any ceramic. And then you're left with this super strong. So now you can make these lattice structures in ceramics, which are really, the holy grail for heat dissipation. So there's a lot of applications. So here it is. This looks like a Viper that they're firing it in. That's a nice machine. So they have, it looks like just a regular SLA resin vat. That's what it looks like to me,
So it's a transparent ceramic.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure how it turns out after it goes into the kiln, but here he is. He's showing this lattice structure. He's putting a torch at 1700 degrees, and it's not even phasing it. So this could be a real revolutionary step.
Oh my gosh, it's coming true. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Star Trek movies, but do you remember the one with the humpback whale?
No.
Okay.
Oh
Well,
yeah, where they had is it concrete that was transparent concrete
no,
or something?
it was
Transparent
they had
steel.
to make acrylic because he says, "Oh, you don't have what did they say? Can't remember the material, but this is what reminds me. It's a transparent ceramic, but I think they were using transparent aluminum or something like that.
Transparent aluminum is what it
And
was.
yeah, and whatever. Can't remember the engineer's name. Jeez.
So head over to Popular Mechanics, check out the article. It's very informative. The company I already put in, there it is, HRL Laboratories in Malibu. I already put in an inquiry to them, see
Cool.
if they could maybe come on and talk about it or find out how we buy this stuff, because I want some of this resin.
Okay, well, let's move on to my next item. Speaking of architectural items, remember I mentioned about printing 3D blocks?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you guys might be interested in this. So it appears this guy has created a little Kickstarter to fund making little blocks. Little 3D blocks, but allows you to interchange components. So the one that he's backing now that I'll get back to is for Paris. It's kind of a fun little idea. I think these are available on Shapeways as well. So if you go out to his Shapeways store, I think you can buy these. So I thought that was kind of funny. So here's the actual website on Kickstarter if you want to back them.
Interesting.
Yep, it's funny what people think of. So that would be kind of fun.
Very creative.
In the Parisian.
He's done a very good job sculpting, and he obviously has already gone through and gotten some printing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. Huh.
Well,
Itty blocks.
Itty blocks. Okay, well that's Itty blocks. So.
Itty blocks.
However, I think that's a cool concept. You know, a lot of people, especially here at Cal Poly, we have our architectural group who came to me on numerous occasions right before their end of term, which kept me busy all night. But many of them had to create little projects like this. So kind of neat that somebody's trying to make a little money off of probably their last project in school. Okay, Chris, on to your next item.
Okay, so this one kind of falls under the 3D design or 3D printing side of things. This comes this was a CES Engadget article that happened, was it yesterday? And so Planetary Resources and 3D Systems turns a meteorite into a 3D print. So this is a first object 3D printed from alien metal. So the so-called asteroid mining company Planetary Resources is built on the belief that asteroids and other objects in space are loaded with resources that we can take advantage of, both here and on Earth, as we begin to explore space in earnest. The essentially infinite supply of rocks floating through space filled with valuable minerals that we'll eventually run out of on our home planet sounds like a great resource to take advantage of, but the idea of mining, processing, and building with alien metals also sounds like a massive and daunting undertaking until now. So they have, here you can see a conversation about it, but they show the process. They basically took this meteorite that came from, was it Argentina? Somewhere somewhere like that. Where did it come from? I'm trying to remember. They ground it into a fine powder, and then they used a sintering machine from 3D Systems to basically build this little kind of, it looks like a little moon rocket booster type, lunar lander structure type thing. Just this little piece. So they actually ground up meteorite. They put it in this 320 sintering machine and sintered the rock into a structure. Pretty cool. They turned a meteorite into something. So there we go. Now they're showing the viability of harvesting meteorites for something. We know they're loaded with all kinds of stuff, but how do you use it? And so 3D Systems is kind of showing, here's an application. Use it for 3D printing. You could build yourself a home on a meteorite or on a comet, I guess. You could blast yourself to a comet. You could build yourself a little house and ride the comet somewhere, and also build yourself a rocket while you're on the comet for a ride, and then maybe blast off in your 3D printed rocket and take some meteorite with you and build your house on the planet that you float down to. I don't know. Pretty cool.
Very, very neat. But, I don't think steel or iron ore is one of the things that we're running out of yet. But that looks like some type of booster. You probably plant it on the side of an asteroid, and then you push it out of orbit and have it fall to Earth, and then, or an accident where this huge asteroid or meteorite comes in and destroys the Earth, and then we won't have to worry about anything anymore. Okay, well, on to my next item. So, speaking of Stratasys again, gosh, no, that was 3D Systems behind us. So now Stratasys also does some direct manufacturing, and this is an article about an orthopedics surgeon who has created a new tool, surgical tool, to help those who have knee injuries by allowing them to actually get in there without having to go through the tibia to repair ligaments in the knee. And here's the tool. So the process is what's really cool. He started out by hand carving it out of plastic. And once he did that, he went to a company called Laser Design to have it 3D scanned. And then from them, they went and created a stainless steel version using the Stratasys direct manufacturing DMLS process. And I guess Iconol, are you familiar with that? 718, which is a stainless steel. And here you go. So essentially, it's kind of funny that he actually sculpted it as a tangible item in the tangible world, and instead of using a 3D design piece of software and then scanned it. And then here's the final product. So very cool. So supposedly this is going to save a lot of time, and healing will be quicker for those of actually for sports injuries, and a lot of times knees are the things that get banged up the most, especially in football. So this should get them back on the field in a week now. So I'm not a football watcher, but I guess for those of you who got somebody who's gone out for an entire season, will now have.
They went out for the seasoning.
Okay, well, pretty
but they
cool
ended
item
up staying
there.
for the season.
Another obviously direct application of using, in this case, from a hand sculpture into a steel product. I guess you could have probably have used a milling technique, so I don't know if this was cheaper or more expensive, but obviously it was an application instead of CNC milling it. All right, Chris, on to your next item.
Okay, well, I'm going to skip over to kind of our 3D scanning corner. This just kind of popped up in my feed, and it kind of was a little under the radar. I didn't even really read about it at CES or anything. This is on YouTube here. This is the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 that debuted. And what's interesting about it is in the video they kind of show it. Here, I'll blow it up for us. And you can watch it's kind of a really nice Windows tablet.
Chris, can I
And
interrupt you for just a
yeah,
moment? You know, you've missed a few episodes, but on several episodes I covered the HP Spectre, which is also a tablet that has the same item built into it. So for those of you who are watching on a regular basis, I'm assuming it'll probably be very similar. So go ahead.
so check it out. So it's got this neat little like dock port on the bottom. So they plugged in a battery thing. This is a projector. It has an integrated projector built in, so you can present with it. And then where it comes in with the 3D scanning is it's got an Intel Realsense 3D camera module that you can plug directly into it on the top and use it for scanning. So I thought that was pretty neat, just showing an integration of the Realsense, because I think Intel is really going to start. I think that the newest iteration of that Realsense is kind of so figured out now that I think we're going to see a lot more development for it. And
Yeah, as I mentioned, Chris, you missed a few episodes. So we had 3 or 4 episodes where I went through the process of using Itzy's 3D with the tablet.
with the Realsense.
Yeah, actually, I think you were with.
Yeah.
It was Fred. So yes, it is happening, and one of the reasons that it's happening is that unlike the structure sensor, and using obviously the battery power from the actual tablet itself, there is no reason why the actual the structure sensor couldn't be built in, but they use stereo cameras and they don't require the heat sink. So I don't know if you remember me showing the actual Realsense unit, but it was a very tiny little unit, maybe about 6 inches, but very, very thin. And one of the reasons for that is they didn't use the same kind of lasering system. It uses a different process for doing the 3D scans. But what I found out, at least in the Spectre, is the ITSI software was about 4 times slower than the iPad structure sensor equivalent. So it didn't seem as real time, so it wasn't as intuitive. And then plus the ITSI software on the iPad uses the iPad camera, which is about 4 times the quality of what comes in the Realsense camera. So your textures were poor. The actual mesh was about the same. So if you're looking at getting something like this, unless you need the tablet, I wouldn't buy it just for the Realsense. The other thing that's a disadvantage with the Realsense is it requires a USB 3 type protocol, because everything is transferred video or the high, it's a 1080p camera as well as the dual three-dimensional camera. So that's all going across one stream, so you need a higher or faster connection for that. Yeah, like you said, they are being built in. They're reasonably priced, so I don't think it adds too much cost to these tablets. So I'm hoping they'll shrink it down even further. In fact, yeah, you'll see. In fact, may I go into mine right off the top? Let's see. Sure, I've got mine up next. Speaking of the Realsense, they just came out with the pre-ordering of their smartphone developing kit. But the other cool thing behind it, and I don't know if I can expand the picture here, is it also includes the entire Project Tango array of sensors. So those of you who are looking, Bryan already dropped out, but one of the things that we were looking at is getting the Project Tango, because currently, in order for us to do, as they call it, unbounded tracking, which allows you to move around in the VR world, you have to apply the sensor to an iPhone and then put that together. So it's somewhat heavy and a little bit bulky. Now you can contain it all in one unit. And Google has been looking or pursuing a fast enough processing system in order to provide that, and it looks like Intel will finally come out with it. The cool thing is it's $399. So if you know what the price of the structure sensor is by itself, it's almost this, and that's not including your iPhones. So if I had $399 right now, I would pre-order it. But, I'll have to see where I can scrounge up a big enough couch to get the money for it. But I'm looking forward to it. It is a 6-inch phablet, so it's a little large still to kind of throw on the front of your face. But if you have the Neo DVR Loop Plus with its 50mm lenses, this might be perfect for it. I don't know. I don't know why I keep saying that, but no, I do. So yeah, essentially, if you're interested in it, as Chris said, the Realsense sensors seem to be popping up everywhere now. All right, Chris, on to your next item.
Okay, well, I guess it's time for us to talk about, really, the only news worth talking about, right? Since we're in VR now.
We are in VR.
So maybe I should let you lead. Because
Okay, I'll go ahead and lead because yours adds to this. So one of the big things at CES, almost from day one, is Oculus took that opportunity to announce their, let me bring up their pricing on the Oculus Rift.
and
So
pre-orders.
without any further ado, $599. Well, as you can imagine, yeah, ka-ching. A lot of people were complaining about this because they were all thinking it would be about $300, which is about the price of their development kits. If you go out to their Reddit, I guess Lucky went on to Reddit, he talks about the reasoning of why this occurred, and I have to agree with him. They put in a lot of high-quality units. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that the DK2 was literally a Note 3, and it was almost a year after the Note 3 came out. So what we have now is we've kind of moved a little bit further than that. We have a higher quality OLED screen in this. We have a fast, and this is important, IMU, which is what you use in order to identify yourself in space. Obviously, it's lighter. So there's a lot of reasons that this $599. So keep that in mind. Imagine this is literally a phone with a plastic box around it that has a cord that attaches to a PC. So most high-end phones are $700, $600, and so $599 isn't too far from that. So if you think from that perspective, it's got one of the better screens out there. That's really not too much, and that's really the most of the cost of a phone anyways. In fact, the Note 3, a lot of people were surprised that literally it was the Note 3. They didn't even pull out the processor in it. And I can see why they would continue to use it, because that's what processes, and they probably run that through the USB port on the device itself. So I'm not surprised by this price. I haven't ordered one because I don't have a large enough couch to get change out of. But the other concern was, man, if I order it, it's not going to be available to June. So, oh well. I have a Kickstarter that I paid about the same amount that's been over 2 years old. Hint, hint, not going to mention any names. Actually, I forgot their name by now. 6 cents, yeah. But the other thing, and I'm going to let Chris talk about this, is not only do you have to spend $599 for the display unit, you have to spend at least $1,000 for a high-end gaming system in order to take advantage of it. So, Chris, what do you got for us?
Well, so I did order one to get on the pre-order list. That way, you know.
What?
I gotta get my hands on one. I had the Dev 1, and it didn't do it for me. I tried the Dev 2. It was a lot better than the Dev 1, right? And then, you know, this one is pretty figured out. They've been working on it a long time, so I bit the bullet and, had the company pay for it. And so, but I downloaded the tool, and
we're gonna do the episode for All Things 3D with you, huh? I'll have to physically come over there.
So I downloaded the tool, though, right at, and it tells me that I guess my generation of i7 is, I think I have like a 3rd gen i7, and they're on the 6th gen i7 now, and so you need like a 6th gen i5 or greater. So I apparently have to upgrade my processor. So it's to run it, even though I have a big bad Titan X GPU in my computer, it'll probably run, but it's not recommended. So
What's your actually what generation of processor do you have?
I think I have a third generation i7.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Because yeah, but you have like the latest generation. I
I
mean, the
think they want
GPU
like
card.
yeah, and I've got enough cooling. I think my CPU. I think it's only I think it's only like 4 cores though. So I think you need like 8 cores or something. I don't know. I don't know what the actual. It just told me doesn't work. You need an i5 or greater. You need to order this, and it even has a link that'll take you right to what everything else checked out. It says, oh yeah, everything else is good on you, but you need a better processor. So I'm gonna have to order up a new processor and
Well, be
take my
careful with
PC
that
apart.
because if you got a third generation, it's not gonna. You're gonna have to get a
Yeah,
new
I'll have to get a new
motherboard and everything.
motherboard. Yeah, I
Um,
might have a different socket set. I gotta check all that stuff out. So that's still
yep.
in process. However, they did also announce, and this is my news item, is Oculus Ready PC bundles. So they're going to start pre-orders on those in February, and those are for $14.99, and they include an Oculus.
You know, that
So
might not be a bad deal, Chris.
it's
I
not at
think
all.
when you parse out everything that's required for that, I think you'll find out that you'll probably
Yeah,
spend about 1,000
yeah.
yourself.
So they have some Alienware, Asus. Um, these companies have kind of teamed up. They have some Oculus ready PCs that are coming out, and the bundles, like I said, start at about $14.99. So for a gaming rig, I mean, it used to cost twice that to get a gaming rig. So
Oh,
now you
people are
can get a
spending
gaming,
five to $10,000,
yeah, on a
depending if you had
gaming rig.
water cooling.
Yeah, and this is came to us from Road to VR, obviously one of our favorite kind of
Yep.
editorials, and so for $14.99 for a full blown VR, it's I mean that's what's neat about it is about one of these Oculus Ready PCs is not only is it going to be a VR uh, gaming rig, but it'll just be you can use it for your general computing. It has expandability, obviously, because it's a tower, and so you be able to expand and kind of grow into it and use it for your work. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how this kind of shakes out for even my work. That's really what it's all about, is how it relates to, I'm in 3D every day, and to be able to see things in 3D on the screen and kind of spin them around. I'm doing a lot of work in Space Claim now, a lot of work in SolidWorks, to be able to kind of take stuff and be able to check it out without having to print it. Maybe I'll catch something. Maybe it'll pay for itself. Who knows? But it
Uh,
comes with games. I mean, it comes bundled with all kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool.
yeah. Well, as you know, I had the DK2, and it's better than the DK1. I think you tried mine, right? Um, so the resolution on the, what do they call it, the consumer, I can't remember the actual acronym, but I guess the consumer version of this is about the same resolution. Supposedly it's a brighter screen, has a better pixel refresh rate, which is very important. One of the reasons for the fast machine is that they identified you have to have at least a 90 frames per second, if I remember correctly, um, which is very, very fast, which is another reason for the beefy machine. Plus, you have to generate stereo pairs, and so that increases the resolution. So these are the reasons why you have a fast machine. Plus, you need to make sure that the information coming from the IMU is translated without any latency or lag, because this is one of the reasons people get sick. So again, another reason for a fast machine. So I can understand why they've gone this route. Some people expected a cheaper variant, and this is one of the reasons some people think the Sony VR solution with the PlayStation 4 may be more popular, because that should be about 300, but there is some rumors that it will cost as much as the PlayStation 4, maybe even more, so they're not going to try and scrimp either, but they're not going to come out with something horrendously expensive. They made that mistake with the PS3. If you remember, originally cost $600 for a gaming station, and they heard a lot about that. They obviously came out with Blu-ray at the time with their disc, but they had to really make up for it. One of the reasons why the PS4 is a lot less. I'm sorry, is it the PS1? Sorry if I don't remember my acronyms, but whatever the latest version is, they came out at a lower price point, and obviously it's supposedly selling 2 or 3 to 1 over at Xbox 360. So that's my other option item along this line. Other good news. If you're not interested in the Oculus, there is the HTC Vive. So some people are concerned because they keep delaying it, but they let's see, I played a little video here. They came out with the brand new headset. So it's lighter. There's your hand controls, which are very important, which will be available when it actually is released. But the other important thing is that you can use it in a room. It has 2 little sensors you mount on, light stands, and it allows you to, there you go. Allows you to actually interact in the room. But again, notice the umbilical cord behind the person. So some people have created laptops with a backpack so that you can keep the whole thing mobile. So again, you have the multiple cords, but it tracks you in the room. As you can see, he's actually using this 3D paint program that allows him to paint in space. Or is that a game? I can't remember exactly, but notice he's moving around, so that's pretty cool. So this is the competition to the Rift. The quality of the actual screen, I guess some people think, is a little better. It actually has a higher vertical resolution. So I guess this is what he may be seeing.
He's throwing cups.
But notice what he's doing in the physical world. So as you can see, there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming out in this environment, and this reminds me of the early days of gaming machines. You see where they've come now. So I think all of these in 2016 are going to do very well. I know that the Oculus Rift is pretty much sold out. Depending on when you pre-order. What was the date for your pre-order? Was it June as well, or?
No, the pre-order should be here in April.
Okay, so you got there early on, but if you try to order one now, it's now June, so that kind of indicates that they have a lot of pre-orders. So a big positive. Obviously, I think VR is very cool, and I think, as you said, there's going to be lots of applications. What wasn't presented here, because Microsoft doesn't show up at CES anymore, is the HoloLens, which is also more of an augmented reality, but a lot of push in that area. And then one other, I just mentioned the Sony, so that's about the end of our VR stuff. So before you close out, I've got a few items, but you've got another little item from the Print Whisperer, which, by the way, if you don't know who the Print Whisperer is, that's Chris. He's the Print Whisperer. It's kind of like Batman, but he doesn't have right,
yeah, so my latest love affair has been with OctoPrint. It's come a long way. I kind of tried OctoPrint out maybe, I think it's been a couple years. It seems like a couple years ago, but maybe not that long ago. Yeah, I guess probably with my Delta printer, and I couldn't really get it to operate like I wanted it to, and it just has come a long way. And now, so you can actually drive any USB 3D printer with OctoPrint. So you can so you can basically turn any Raspberry Pi into a brain that kind of powers your 3D printer. So kind of like the Matter Control Touch or one of those. This is an alternative, and it actually lets you interface via a web interface. So you can actually type in the IP address or a domain on your local network, and you can actually send jobs, G-code, or it even has Cura built in, and you can fully control your printer. You can even have a webcam or a Raspberry Pi cam that you can plug in and monitor live. You can set up time lapses on it. It'll capture time lapses for you. It has a fully integrated G-code viewer. It has Cura, like I said, so you can actually drop STLs. And then it's got terminal, and then, like I said, you can do time lapses, and you can fully monitor it. So you can actually make this accessible from outside your network even. If you wanted to monitor your printer or send jobs from home, you can do that. So pretty nifty little tool. Highly recommend anybody that has, I've been using it with my Lulzbot Mini, and because the Lulzbot Mini, one of the things that it's lacking, because it's low-cost printer, one of the things that it's lacking is an SD card port, right? So you can't actually rip your job like I do with my my TAS. I can't rip a job, put it on an SD card. It doesn't have any onboard ability to take G-code. So you have to have it usually plugged into a computer. But OctoPrint lets me just plug directly into it. So for $35, you can buy a Raspberry Pi, or I think even less now. I think they even have, do they have like a $15 Raspberry Pi now?
Yes, actually, I think it's even a little less than that.
Yeah, and then you upload. So you get all the instructions over here at octoprint.org.
I think it's $5.
$5 now.
Yeah.
So you can add a brain now for $5. I mean, obviously you have to have a little micro SD card with enough memory and the power cables and all that. But you can fully control your printer. If it doesn't have a smart brain, you can add one. And this is a really great way to do it. It's been flawless. So the way I'm doing it now is I'm ripping everything with Cura on my PC and double checking everything on the screen, and then sending the G-code directly over. You just click this upload button here, and it brings up an upload dialog, and you can just you can actually just upload. And go ahead.
Who makes the Octo printer?
OctoPrint is an open source project. It's created by Gina something and sponsored by BQ, and I don't know who BQ is, but there's all kinds of screenshots and video demos of how to do it. This getting started with the OctoPrint on the Raspberry Pi 2 is a really good video. I recommend the Raspberry Pi 2. That's what I'm using right now. It's a really nice it's kind of like the newest version of the Raspberry Pi, other than the cheap version, right? Because I think the cheap version, they went real low cost. And Mike's saying $5. That's amazing.
Yep.
So,
well, and again, there might be some caveats behind that. I don't know how much memory is on it. There's this message that it does not include the headers for the GPIO, but we don't use GPIO. It's basically the micro USB port, which I do believe there is one on it. I do believe it has a micro SD, so both of those two will be supported on it. I guess it might be dependent upon your micro SD card, because that's where I think it stores the files. Now, who's the company behind this? I'm going to just make sure, because there's two people out there. Is this the same people that have an online model service?
I guess it's apparently BQ is the name of the company. It looks like they are into product development. It looks like they develop phones, or at least do art. The Aquarius M4.5, the Aquarius E5S. It looks like they make smartphones.
So maybe they were bought out. This was originally a Kickstarter, which I backed and actually have. But there's another one, and I apologize to those who put it out. Our friends, and I can't think of the name, we've had them on. They have a solid model. It's kind of like Sketchfab for solid models. Who is that company? Do you remember? Something.
Sketchfab for solid models. Oh, GrabCAD.
GrabCAD. The people behind GrabCAD also put out a version of this, which I actually like better, but it looks like OctoPrint has really come along. So I guess I better dust off mine, because right now I've kind of gone the high-end route, and I just hooked up a little Nook clone to to a back of an LCD monitor, and I just have all mine connected to the USB ports on that, and that becomes my system. But I could see that working. Oh, Chris, okay. All right, well, that means that I have to close my window and then come back in.
No worries.
Okay, so go on and talk a little bit more, and I'll be right back because I got a couple of items.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess what I could jump into here is obviously we have some 3D printer or 3D printing shows always coming up now with the up and coming everything going on in the market. So let's look what we have going on here. Wow, busy year. So we had CES is happening now. Tomorrow is the last day of CES over in Las Vegas. We have Make Munich coming up on the 16th and 17th. 3D Printing Electronics Conference in Netherlands. 3D Bioprinting Conference in the Netherlands. The 3D Dental Printing Conference in the Netherlands. And then Inside 3D Printing in Singapore, obviously. And so you can get a more complete listing of
Okay, it
these
appears
things.
like I'm back. Am I okay now?
You are all set. Yeah, so you can get a full listing over at 3dprintingforbeginners.com/fair-events, and you can see a full listing of what's coming up in the 3D printing show or gatherings.
Well, thank you for handling the calendar. So let's get into the spelunking in the Tech Cave.
Let's go splunking.
Huh?
Let's go splunking.
Yes. So essentially, I've got a couple of things to cover. Actually, a few things. One, thanks to my friend, Part 7, we have the Meteorite VR Loop Plus.
Nice.
50 millimeter glass lenses.
Whoa. It looks like Wally.
I've hand painted it. Couple of things that he used on this was the Ninja Flex. So I have flexible fins or flaps, which, as you can see, help shield the sides. They're going to be a little bit larger. The actual eye cups are going to be a little bit larger as well to conform to the face. Currently, those are Ninja Flex, but I will have these made in silicone so that they're more pliable. I found that material is nice and soft and it really works well. But the thing that's super cool, and I know I've been talking about the Loop Plus a lot, and you may have seen it in some of the tweets, but the cool thing behind this is the all-glass lenses. They're extremely large, so it's like looking into glass. There's very little distortion, both from a chromatic perspective and from an optical distortion. So I didn't have to do much, what do you want to call it, reconfiguration. It's called pin cushion adjustment. So yeah, it's pretty neat. So I've been looking at all kinds of stuff. In fact, I'll go right back to my screen. So what I've done is I've compiled an entire list, what I call the kid-friendly VR apps, where I went through, I'd say, I don't know, 3 dozen different VR apps, both in Android and iOS. There's a link that'll be in the show notes, but essentially it is links to the Google Store, Play Store, or the iOS iTunes Store that allow you to download. Most of these should be free or a couple of bucks. There are some paid versions, and I may sort those out. But a lot of them, you get what you pay for. But some of them are kind of fun. One of the things that I played with a little bit is an actual flight simulator, which is actually really, really cool. I have this iPega, and I'm actually going to sell this as well. iPega little Bluetooth gamepad. So you put your phone into it. If you haven't seen it, I guess I can show it real quick. So here's my Note 4. Put it on like that. And you have a gamepad. And if you take the loop, there's your loop, and place it on the front, you have a full gamepad-oriented VR experience. So if you wanted to learn how to fly, I mean, it actually is fairly realistic. You can look out the side windows. You have your cockpit with its gauges. You know, the graphics aren't the best, but it gives you a really good illusion that you're actually flying. You use your little joysticks for ailerons and to push the gas. And, you know, it's not very fancy, but it's a good little thing, and it was free. So yeah, I was pretty excited about that. The other thing is I finally have my finished version of the Neo DVR. Now it's going to key out the actual unit. I do have one in red, and I forgot to bring it down. But this is the Neo DVR Clippy.
That's awesome.
So it has a nice little lightweight handle. And I changed the design. There's a little rubber band that'll actually be yellow. That's not needed because essentially, and I can show it real quick. Where is it? Because it's called Clippy because it has a little clip. So you just slide your phone into it like that. And actually it's made as like the earlier version for the iPod Touch. The new 6G is a powerhouse for a phone, but I actually moved the IPDL out so adults can use it, but still keep it very kid-friendly. Again, silicone little rubber eye rings so that it's comfortable against the eyes, and it actually is a pretty fun experience. So if you want to get your feet wet, don't have an expensive smartphone, you can get this at Walmart for the iPod Touch 6G for $169 for the 16 gig version, and I guess it goes up from there. So about 200, you can get a 64 gig version. And I'm hoping, if things go well and I get a backer, I'm looking at one from China to back me to get this produced. I'm looking at less than $20 for this. So it's an alternative. If you've heard me talk about the Mattel Viewmaster, it's about 1/4 the size, lightweight, and specifically made for a low cost, which I can't imagine most kids, unless they use their parents' phone, affording us a good smartphone to do VR. This is kind of an unsung hero. So that's the items updates. Another little tip for those of you who are watching later on. There will be an Indiegogo sometime next week, announcement for the Loop. My price for that, for the early backers, will be $49.95. And that will include, and I'll have a full list of items, but essentially what you saw there. And as I mentioned, glass optics, not cheap plastic, that will be coated to prevent reflections. And yeah, I wish I was able to make it to CES because seeing is believing. I can tell you all the marketing hype behind it, but Chris, you've got to see this. I mean, one of the reasons that I think the Oculus will do well is because they share, I think, a lens system very similar to this. And if it's anything like what I have here, it will be amazing.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think a big part of the Oculus success is the fact that so many Unity developers have already started kind of developing content for it.
Well, and also, I don't know if you're aware of it, since I also develop under Unreal Development Kit. They have
Unreal as well, yeah.
And is that what you meant? Yes. So
both of them, yeah.
Right. The UDK stuff that's been coming out has been, I mean, it's just mind-blowing. So yes, there has been a lot of support, and in order to make a system work, you have to have games, and as you mentioned, there'll be games that'll be included. One of them that a lot of people are really excited about is the online Eve that you can now do in VR, which has a huge following, so I can imagine it doing well there. All right, well, let me get on to my last item because I know you've got an appointment at 10:30, and I think you might be interested in this, so I'm going to switch to another camera and switch to another microphone, and yeah, I think you might like this. So this, I don't know if... Yes, this is, and you missed this episode, this is the $50, what do you want to call it? Photogrammetry turntable. And I talked about it in the show right before Christmas. Essentially, you can buy yourself on Amazon a 30, I can't remember where I got this one, I drilled a hole in the middle. It has a plate on the bottom that has bearings. I mounted the plate stationary, or the pole that comes out of the middle of it. So it's stationary to the bearings, so the only thing that moves, and I'm going to go over there now. Nod your head if you can hear me. Okay, so essentially, it's got a stationary mount here, and the actual plate moves. So
we can't see it.
You can put an item on it.
Camera's not switched.
Like that. And then using a standard little cheap phone connector. And again, another reason the iPod Touch 6G is an excellent buy. It has the same camera as the original iPhone 6. So it's an 8 meg camera, which is more than adequate. And I'll jump back to my other screen to show you some results from it. But essentially, if you're using 123D, you can capture it, or you can capture your own static images and then export them. You remember talking about a reality camera, can't remember the name of it. Reality Capture, I think is the name of it, is the name of the software. But I've added some lights, which obviously will bring the cost up. But for under $100 with lights, here we go. And the cool thing, the reason that I put the lights in like this is that the lights move with the camera. So you have constant lighting all the way around the object, which is very important in photogrammetry. So it makes the whole process easy. I did about 24 to 32 images. I don't know what that works out to, but essentially you can get by with only 16 images and just basically rotate around it. One of the things I suggested to Autodesk is to add back. I was told that it was there and now they removed it, and that was the Bluetooth control. So one of those little Bluetooth photo controls, so you don't even have to touch the screen, you can just click it. Currently 123D Capture does not have that in there, but they plan to put it back. So I'm looking forward to that. And if not, you can always capture your images separately using one of those Bluetooth remotes and then export those into Reality Capture, which I think, Chris, you talked about on an earlier show, that I guess is free right now, and allow you to do the same thing there if you wanted a more high quality. Obviously, this is a standard, it's like a selfie stick, but it's not that expensive. I think it was like $10, but you can replace the phone item here with a standard tripod. So if you've got yourself a small, lightweight, high-resolution camera, you can place it on here as well and take pictures that way. So you're not confined to it. In fact, you could probably put a DSLR on there. It will support a lightweight one. So like the one that you have, I would suggest like a 40 millimeter lens or something like that, so that you can grab the whole thing. I think the iPod has equivalent to about a 35 millimeter lens. So you would need something like that. So there you go. You know what? I never even jumped to my screen. So here you go. So for those of you, hang on. I'm going to have to get a very long cable for my headset, so that you're probably saying, I can't see anything.
I was trying to tell you.
Here it is. So I was doing all the talking, and you didn't even get to see it. So essentially, the pole in the middle stays stationary. The lights and the actual device rotate around the object, which is important for photogrammetry. And it's manual, but it only takes a minute to rotate it. As I was saying, you can use a Bluetooth grip with it if you want to take separate snapshots. I did talk to Autodesk, and they will be adding that feature back in the future. So literally, it took about a minute, and I'll show you the results here real quick, and then we can call it quits. So you go out to 123D Capture, and then you have to have an Autodesk account.
Hey, Mike.
But it stores if you're familiar with it already. Chris, have you ever used it?
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Hang on.
We have you on 2 mics.
Okay, so you're getting some echo?
Yeah, switch to just the 1 mic.
Hang on. Okay. So I should be good again?
Not yet. No.
Hmm?
Nope. Still got you on 2 mics, I think.
And I wasn't on 2 mics before? Okay, how about now?
Yeah, now you're back. Perfect.
Okay. So was I on 2 mics the whole time?
No. Just like the
Oh,
last
okay, I know
5
why.
minutes or so.
Okay.
So switch back to your camera and show us your scan, what you came up with.
Hang on, I have to log in. Okay, so here are several that I did.
Oh yeah, check it out.
So the one that I liked, let me go back to, is one that I did earlier. It was Santa. So one of the things that you need to do, and you can use Memento for this, is that you export it, and then you obviously clean up the extraneous stuff that it captures. But
That does pretty great.
yep, I was very surprised, and yeah, I mean, if you've got some wood skills, you could cut out your own turntable. The actual bearings are about $8, so you could actually do this for less than 50. The 2 lights altogether with the stands are about $20, $25. So, like I said, for less than 100, you can come up with a pretty cool little system to do photogrammetry. And I mean, you could, if James is still listening out there, or he may listen later on, this would be a great little Arduino kit or even a Raspberry Pi, put a little gear on it and automate it. And speaking of that, there is a company called Aereo. If you remember, we talked about them. They have a version similar to this that has an extendable arm that's on Kickstarter right now. I think they may have finished, so you can pre-order it. About $300. Yeah, I think it's about $200 to $300. You can get something like this, but they've got a lot of other things that you can do with it as well. But if you need something just for this, or you want to play around with it and not spend a lot of money, like I said, less than $50, throw in some lights, and there you go. This is what you can do. And one final item, and then I'll call it quits. One of the things that I will be now selling as the new Meteorite is this little unit from a Chinese company that I'll be working with. I placed a little magnet on the back so that you can use the Meteorite case. But it has its own tripod mount on the bottom, so you can use it with a regular phone. It also has its own built-in battery. And the thing that I've found is, why reinvent things? But it's really bright. It has 5 levels of lighting. So pretty cool. And so this will now replace the Neoti Bright that I have now. And it'll be about the same price.
Wow.
And pretty cool. So, yep, that's about it for me.
Awesome. Well,
we did it a little over, but you got to get going. So thank you, Chris, for joining us again.
And thank you, Mike, and thank you to all of our wonderful listeners out there. And we will see you next week on another episode of All Things 3D.
Bye.